Hey guys, what's up? Producer engineer Alex Scott here with Consordini.com. Thank you so much for checking out another one of our studio gear reviews. Today we are taking a look at this beautiful little box, the Golden Age Project COMP-3A. Now this is kind of a clone, kind of an homage, a remake with some really modern features, well, let's call it, of a classic compressor, one of the most legendary compressors in the audio industry, the Teltronix or UREI LA-3A. Now, the LA-3A was originally designed as kind of an update or refresh of the LA-2A. The LA-2A is a tube-based compressor. It's a tube optical compressor, and this phased out the tubes and instead replaced it with solid-state gain circuits. But the T4B opto cell that drives the gain reduction in both the 3A and the previous model, the LA-2A, is legendary for its compression characteristic, how it actually does the gain reduction. So these are optical compressors, and basically what that means is that the element inside, or the circuit inside, that's actually causing, the volume to be turned down when it goes above the threshold, that actually causes the compression to happen, is done with a photoresistor and a light bulb, basically. So you have in the T4B opto cell, the little circuit, you have a little light bulb that basically gets brighter as the sound gets louder. And that light bulb sits right above a photoresistor, which is a little element that when light hits it, when photons hit it, it actually increases its resistance to the signal going through it. So you basically have, the louder the sound gets, the brighter the light bulb lights up, and then the brighter the light bulb lights up, the more resistant, or kind of the quieter, the photoresistor makes the signal. So it's a really cool and very ingenious way of approaching gain reduction in a circuit. Opto compressors are some of the oldest types of compressors. The LA-2A was originally designed, I believe, in the 50s or early 60s, and then the LA-3A was introduced a couple of years later, again, to remove the tubes from the circuit and to use this, at the time, newfangled solid-state circuitry to achieve all your makeup gain and all that kind of stuff. Now, there's some amazing features on this box that actually are not on the original, which is why it's not a true clone per se. It's not identical to the original LA-3A, but instead they moved a lot of the stuff that was originally either on the back of the unit or not even included at all. They've put it on the front of the unit, kind of modifications and things that people would do to their original LA-3As to make them a little bit more usable, a little bit more comprehensive. So we do have the typical controls that you would expect in terms of gain and then peak reduction, which are the two main controls on the original. But we also have a stereo linking feature that's available on the front. In the older units, that was on the back. We have our high-frequency response kind of curve that changes how the compressor reacts to high frequencies. Then we have these gain modifications that kind of change the gain staging internally to allow you to hit the compressor either harder or not as hard, depending on what you want to do. We do have the limit or compress ratio control. So compress is a 4:1 ratio, limit is a 10:1 ratio. And of course we have bypass and our selection for our metering. But words can only do something so much justice, so let's go ahead and stick this thing in our rack and take a listen to how it actually sounds. Okay guys, so here we have our COMP-3A from Golden Age Project. Just to go over the features again real quick, now that we're actually looking at the unit. Most basic and important ones, we have peak reduction, obviously, which is what's, how much actual compression you're doing. And then you have output gain. So this comes after peak reduction to drive the output gain. We then have this kind of high frequency response, or I guess it's more a low frequency response setup, which basically tells the compressor to either respond to the entire signal spectrum or just the high frequencies. We have a stereo link in case you have two units and want to use them linked on a bus or something. We then have these gain staging switches, or kind of gain mods, which these are based on mods that a lot of people did to their original LA-3As, and are just basically, kind of pads and changes the structure of the input and output gain to work with louder signals or quieter signals, or, drive the compressor how you want. We then have limit or compress options. Limit is roughly 10:1, compress is roughly 4:1 in terms of ratio. It is program dependent because they're optical, but that's generally where they're coming in at. And then bypass switch and metering switch to go from gain reduction +4 or +10. Meter calibration, power, And that's pretty much it. The things that you're going to be playing around with most are going to be these two up here, obviously your peak reduction and your output gain. That's really where you're going to be able to dial in your sound. So they're very, very simple compressors from that perspective. You know, you don't have a ton of knobs to worry about and trying to hone in your attack and release. It does what it does, and, you know, that's pretty much the story. So I've got a drum loop pulled up here. This is running through the compressor, but no compression. And you can hear right off the bat, here we gain match, this is the compressor disengaged. And then when we pull in the compressor, you can hear it definitely lends a little bit of transformer sweetness on its own. But then, you know, pretty much you just start doing your thing. I'm going to send a little more gain from the DAW so we can hit the compressor a little bit harder. Again, here's without and engaged. Now, obviously, that's a pretty extreme setting right there. You know, we're pretty much all the way maxed on peak reduction. And you can get it to dive all the way down to 20 dB when, you know, you start using your gain mod switches and hitting it with even harder signals. And you're not necessarily going to compress that hard. I'm overdoing it so you guys can hear the tone of the compressor. Again, disengaged. But, you know, if you dial it back to a pretty reasonable level, disengaged, engaged. You know, it's a pretty clean, you know, for an optical at least, it's a pretty clean compressor. There's really not too much craziness going on with it. You know, just in terms of pumping and artifacts and all that kind of stuff. It really is, it's pretty transparent gain reduction, but just with a nice amount of kind of transformery sweetness. So now I want to use it on a bass signal for you guys. So this is a Sire Jazz bass, I believe, recorded through my Neve 1073s. So that's engaged, disengaged, and engaged. So it just adds some girth, adds some thickness. You know, it's really just a pretty straightforward compressor. I love the tone of it. You know, it's not too aggressive, it's not too vintagey or too saturated. It just adds some really, really nice transformer sweetness to your signal. Okay guys, so there you go. The Golden Age COMP-3A optical compressor. I absolutely love this box. Again, I know I say that about every gear or every piece of gear that I review here on this channel, but I only review stuff that I really like, stuff that I think is worthwhile for you guys. And, you know, stuff that I own and have access to, but again, I only buy stuff that I really like, or I only keep stuff and want to tell people about stuff that I really, really like. So this unit is no exception. The thing that I really like about it is it has, as you guys just heard, this really nice transparent way of just sweetening a signal. Obviously it does the compression that we need it to do, but it's just the little bit of sonic signature that it imparts. There isn't a ton of one. It's not like super rich or girthy or distorted or anything like that, like some other older tube compressors and stuff. It's really clean. The way the attack and release curves end up happening with that photocell in there just catch stuff really, really, really nicely and just bring a great amount of presence to your signal. You know, we heard it on vocals, absolutely love it on vocals, but it's great for pretty much everything. You know, it's really a fun compressor and a beautiful homage to a classic piece of equipment. And Golden Age project I really like as a company in general as well. You know, they have some kind of Neve clone stuff that they've been doing over the years. Their pre-73 is legendary. A lot of people love that preamp. I love that preamp. I've used one in the past, or many in the past. But Golden Age, they're just doing really, really cool stuff. They're picking cool pieces of gear to emulate or to recreate, and they're doing it with their own flair by adding some of these interesting, kind of more modern features, but still keeping the classic form factor and the classic look and feel of the vintage units that they're recreating. So big props to Golden Age for a fabulous product. But what do you guys think of Golden Age? What do you guys think of the COMP-3A? Have you used one? Do you want one? Have you ever used an original LA-3A? We would love to hear your comments down below. So do let us know what you think, or if you have any thoughts, ideas, questions, anything like that. But again, my name is Alex Scott with Consordini.com. Thank you guys so much for checking out another gear review, and we will see you in the next video.